One of the things that we did in Cor-Restor is we also looked at making sure that when nitric oxide oxidizes, and it can, we put 24 vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants in Cor-Restor to make sure that when nitric oxide does oxidize, it is then deoxidized, which converts it back in and starts that, as you call it, the nitric oxide loop. But with people with ADMA, if you increase the D3 and you have the secondary pathway of the nitrite compound with the beetroot we put in there, not only do you get an extensive delivery system, but you also put people who are older, who potentially have ADMA, into a position where they actually are producing the nitric oxide. Whereas without the components that we have in Cor-Restor, they wouldn't be, with all the arginine and citrulline in the world.
Yeah, and it's why, again, it all gets back, I think, to really understanding the importance of the endothelium. And we could talk for an hour about what the endothelium does and how it functions in the body and the need for it to function well. But when you look at arteriosclerotic disease or plaque buildup in the arteries, most people assume that the endothelium, for whatever reason, stuff just starts sticking to the artery wall.
Yes, yes.
And so you get this plaque buildup and you get a blockage and you get a heart attack or you get a stroke from that. And essentially what happens is, and the way I typically try to explain this to people is that when you have an injury, when you skin your elbow, fall down on a pavement, skin your elbow, and you get this nice little gooey stuff that shows up in that wound, it's pretty sticky stuff, and it's collagen is what that is.
Yeah.
And collagen actually occurs, that same process happens in the vessel. You get an injury or you get a lesion on the endothelium.
Looks like a cracked lip.
Looks like a cracked lip. Just this nice little scar on the endothelium. The body then sends collagen because it's trying to heal that. It's trying to heal that wound, just like it does on your elbow, same thing. And that collagen is extremely sticky. And that's what starts building the blockage, because at that point in time, everything sticks to it. It's not necessarily cholesterol.
Like you said you like Velcro.
Like Velcro on steroids. Everything sticks to it. And most people get really concerned about total cholesterol levels and those type things. And although it's something we should monitor, there's really never been any research that shows that elevated cholesterol causes heart disease. There's no study that shows that. And you can even go further than that. And if you look at just in the year 2015, which is the last reporting data that we have, 78% of people who are admitted to hospitals in the United States for heart attacks or strokes have cholesterol levels that we deem to be good.
Normal.
They're normal. So if cholesterol were the real problem, why are these people in the hospital with a heart attack or a stroke? And essentially what you have to understand is it has to do with the oxidative process.
There you go.
Are you oxidizing LDL?
Yes.
What we call the bad cholesterol. Most people refer to that as the bad cholesterol. Well, if you're oxidizing high amounts of LDL, that's coming from endothelial dysfunction.
Yes.
So you're causing damage to the endothelial wall, which is causing those little lesions, those little scars, to cause the collagen to come so that things start sticking. And it's not just cholesterol that sticks. It's platelets, it's cells, it's other blood trash. It's good and bad cholesterol that stick. So that's where you build that, and it essentially builds a scab.
Yes.
And when you get that scab there, just like any other scab, at some point in time, a piece of it breaks off. Well, a piece of it breaks off, goes down line, hits a narrow area, blocks up, you get a heart attack. And what nitric oxide does is it actually improves that healing process. Not only the wound healing process externally can it improve, but it improves the wound healing process internally as well in the vascular system.
Well,
so it heals the endothelium essentially.
And you had mentioned when we looked at the three major aspects of nitric oxide and what it does with the endothelium: the compliance, the ability to contract and expand; the permeability, the ability to increase when nutrients come into the blood, it goes into the cell receptor side or the tissue.
Mm-hmm.
It also significantly impacts how smooth that endothelium is. to use your phraseology, the endothelium is kind of like Teflon on steroids when
Yeah.
it's functioning well. When you're producing a lot of nitric oxide, you have a very smooth endothelium. Nothing sticks to it. It doesn't get cracked like a chapped lip because it's got the nitric oxide. It's just like it's like salve.
Yeah,
And
it flows through nice and easy with very little interruption, and a very nice assimilation from the bloodstream to tissue, because that's where you get into the whole delivery of nutrients. Most people tend to assume that just because we consume something, that our bodies actually use it.
Yes.
Getting a nutrient into the bloodstream is one thing. Getting that nutrient from the bloodstream to the tissue, is quite another thing.
Well, I think one thing you brought up, Stephen, and I'm going to give my analogy, is that a lot of guys 25 years old could eat 850 calories, or 1,000 calories, excuse me. They're going to get 850 of nutrition. Guy my age eats 1,000 calories, he gets about 550 nutrition, because that endothelium is dysfunctional.
Yeah, and that's where it comes into. That's how it comes in, even into weight loss. When you look at weight loss, a lot of the issue with obesity in our country today is not so much about people just eating way too much and not moving enough.
They're not getting the nutrients of what they're
not
eating.
getting nutrients. And when you don't get nutrients delivered to tissue, when that doesn't happen, and it doesn't happen efficiently, and it doesn't happen on a daily basis, the body immediately begins to store fat because it sees itself as starving to death. It's not getting the nutrition that it needs to function the way it needs.
Well, and when that endothelium is functioning, I just noticed myself personally, I was living at 222 pounds, I was living on about 3,000 calories a day because I was probably getting maybe 1,500 to 1,600 of nutrition. Today, I live on about 1,500 calories a day because I'm getting 90% of what I'm eating, I'm getting in my cell receptor site. So my calories amounts went down. That's where the weight loss. And I remember thinking to myself, I just noticed my portions going down, Stephen. I felt like I didn't have to eat as much because I felt like I was getting what I was eating.
You weren't hungry as often because you were getting nutrition.
Exactly.
You were getting nutrition.
Yeah.
And that, when you look at we look at all these things and we start talking even from an athletic performance standpoint, one of the things that we've seen too in the product with Cor-Restor is the benefit that you get from nitric oxide from a pulmonary standpoint.
Oh.
Asthmatics, people who are 6 and 8 and 10 times a day, and users of inhalers, who are either using inhalers very little now, or not using inhalers at all. And basically, what's happened is with nitric oxide, is you've elevated or improve the oxygen diffusion rate.
Right.
And that's how it helps with athletic performance as well.
Sure.
And endurance athletes, the same process, they actually can use the oxygen, or more of the oxygen that they're taking in, they actually utilize in the performance. So they can run longer, they can recover faster from a run, from a biking, from a whatever it is that they do. The same thing with the asthmatic. Now all of a sudden, the asthmatic or the individual with COPD can actually go out and do some activities that they couldn't do prior to that because they're using the oxygen better that they are taking in. They're delivering more oxygen to tissue.
Again.